These are the ports of Seattle and Los Angeles in May 2025. No, this isn't a war. It's not another pandemic. This is a trade collapse, made entirely at home. The cranes that once moved with perfect rhythm now stand still. Container yards once piled high are now half empty. Cargo traffic has dropped by nearly 40%. And here's the scary part. It didn't happen over months. It happened almost overnight. This is the sound of silence. But don't be fooled. This isn't calm. It's the silence before a massive storm. So how did America's busiest ports turn into ghost towns? Why are the machines idle, the workers gone, and the goods missing? And what happens when everything suddenly starts up again? Let's rewind, because it all began with one decision in Washington that shook global trade to its core. It all started in April 2025. The U.S. government suddenly announced a 145% tariff on all Chinese imports. No warning, no gradual rollout. Just like that, overnight, Chinese goods became unaffordable for American companies. Not because they vanished, but because prices more than doubled. For businesses, it was like trying to run a marathon while wearing ankle weights and paying a toll every mile. Manufacturers panicked, retailers froze, logistics companies slammed the brakes. Even the electric vehicle industry, which relies heavily on Chinese-made batteries, motors, and rare earths, came to a screeching halt. This wasn't a demand issue. People still wanted phones, laptops, and cars. But when your battery cost jumps 145% overnight, you don't just accept the hit, you cancel the shipment. Trade didn't slow down because the economy was weak. It slowed because the rules changed overnight. And that's when the real damage began. Not just in boardrooms, but at the ports. Long Beach, Los Angeles, Seattle. These aren't just cities. They're major gateways through which billions of dollars in goods enter the United States each year. After the tariff shock, these ports looked abandoned. No ships docking, no containers unloading, no trucks hauling freight, just silence. Terminal operators cut shifts. Dock workers went home early, or didn't come in at all. Truck drivers waited in place, engines off, unsure if work was coming back. The effects didn't stop there. Every warehouse, every store shelf, every online order began to feel the pressure. Because when goods don't move off the ships, the entire system grinds to a halt. Think of it like dominoes. Once the first piece freezes, everything behind it gets stuck. This wasn't just a slowdown. It was a complete system freeze. The cause? A sudden tariff spike so steep trade itself became too risky. That's when companies started scrambling. They didn't sit still. They fought back. Some rerouted cargo through Canada to dodge the steep tariffs, like taking a longer, rougher road to skip a toll booth. Others stockpiled parts in Mexico, setting up secret warehouses near the border, waiting for the trade war to cool down. EV startups, desperate for lithium and chips, paid sky-high prices to fly in components, turning shipping from a slow, cheap option into a fast, expensive race against time. The supply chain became, well, a high-stakes game of hide-and-seek. Firms searched for loopholes and workarounds, but each detour added cost, delay, and stress, making it harder to keep factories open and shelves full. This wasn't just about doing business, it was about survival. And while companies adapted, the shipping industry faced a crisis of trust. When 25% of shipping capacity vanished from U.S. routes, companies like Maersk and MSC didn't just lose money, they lost confidence. They started avoiding American ports entirely. It was like a traffic jam so bad that drivers permanently switched to side roads. The result? Chaos. The same delays that made holiday gifts arrive late also emptied EV showrooms, pushing deliveries back by months. Shipping isn't just about moving boxes, it's about timing and reliability. When ships skip ports or reroute suddenly, factories, stores, and customers all suffer. Global shipping is a finely tuned system, and when one part drops out, the whole thing shudders. This retreat wasn't just a glitch, it was a warning. America's central role in global trade was slipping. Then, just when it seemed like things couldn't get worse, came a surprise. On May 14th, the U.S. government made a dramatic move. Tariffs were slashed from 145% to 30%. Along with that, businesses were given a 90-day grace period to restock. For many companies, it felt like being tossed a life raft in stormy seas. But here's the catch. 90 days isn't long. You can't just flip a switch to restart supply chains. Factories need time to reboot. Ports need to rehire and retrain crews. Ships need new schedules. The countdown had started, and with the clock ticking, the rush to restock was on. Because during this short window, ports were about to face a massive surge in cargo. It was the kind of pressure they hadn't seen in months. This wave would test whether the system could bounce back or break under the weight. With the tariff cut and the 90-day window announced, retailers and manufacturers didn't just go back to normal. They panicked. Imagine a crowd rushing into a store during a clearance sale. That's what the ports experienced. Back-to-school supplies, holiday products, and especially EV batteries poured in all at once. This wasn't just a busy season, it was a tsunami crashing down on ports that weren't fully ready. Idle cranes couldn't handle the sudden surge. Truck drivers were still in short supply. Warehouses weren't staffed up. What should have been a recovery turned into a new crisis. Instead of speeding up, the system jammed again. This time, not from a lack of goods, but from too much, too fast. And that set the stage for the port's next big challenge. For months, the docks had been empty, like a town hit by drought. Now it was as if the drought ended, and a feast was dumped all at once. Ports that had slashed hours and cut staff were now rushing to rehire and restart. But cranes and trucks don't start instantly. Just like a car left sitting all winter, they take time to warm up again. Truck drivers who were laid off now need to return, and warehouse workers must catch up on months of backlog. It's like giving a starving man a mountain of food and telling him to eat it all in 10 minutes. The ports are now facing a huge challenge, managing a flood of activity after a drought, trying to balance speed with safety. If they fail, the resulting congestion could paralyze the supply chain all over again, delaying goods, raising costs, and frustrating millions. This sudden shift from stillness to chaos reveals just how fragile the system really is. And for small businesses stuck in the middle, the stakes are even higher. For massive corporations, this supply chain mess is a major headache. But for smaller players, it can be a complete disaster. Picture a family-run EV parts supplier who poured their life savings into importing a shipment. They depended on smooth trade and stable tariffs. But halfway across the ocean, the rules changed. Tariffs spiked overnight, doubling their shipment costs. Now they can't afford to pay the added fees. Their goods sit idle at the port, bills are mounting, and workers are stuck waiting. This kind of whiplash, where trade policies flip-flop with no warning, pushes small businesses into survival mode. Most don't have the financial cushion to weather it. Some shut down, others are forced to delay growth. Innovation slows. While the headlines focus on giant ships and tariff rates, the real story is about the people paying the price behind the scenes. The supply chain crisis isn't just an economic issue. It's about dreams and livelihoods being caught in the crossfire. And right in the center of that storm is the electric vehicle industry facing a crisis of its own. EVs are supposed to be the future, greener, smarter, and more sustainable. But right now, they're stuck in the middle of a perfect storm. Detroit and Silicon Valley are racing to produce EVs at scale, but their supply chains are being held hostage by erratic tariffs and shipping delays. Battery factories depend on regular shipments of lithium, cobalt, and semiconductors, most of which come from China and other international suppliers. When tariffs suddenly jump or shipments get stuck, costs surge and production stalls. It's like trying to complete a complex puzzle when key pieces are missing. That leads to fewer cars on the road, delivery delays, and frustrated customers. If this chaos continues, the dream of a rapid EV transition could slow to a crawl. And this slowdown impacts more than just automakers. It affects climate goals, job creation, and the future of transportation. As the rest of the world accelerates toward clean energy, America's trade chaos could leave it dangerously behind. This isn't just America's problem. It's becoming a global one. With U.S. ports frozen or backed up, shipping lines began rerouting vessels to other places, like Rotterdam in Europe or ports in Mexico. It's like a major freeway shutting down, forcing all traffic onto side roads. But when too many ships arrive at once, those alternate routes clog too. Europe's EV industry, which also relies on consistent imports, is now feeling the pressure. Trade is a global web. When one thread snaps, the entire net weakens. This ripple effect shows just how fragile and interconnected supply chains have become. And as U.S. ports struggle to restart, the chaos ripples through every route, driving up costs, causing delays, and creating global uncertainty. Now, this isn't just a domestic issue, it's an international crisis. And at the heart of it all are the workers, the people making everything move. Every container that passes through a port is handled by dock workers and longshoremen. But after months of layoffs and reduced shifts, many of them are still waiting to be called back. You can't just flip a switch and expect them to return at full speed. This labor crunch causes major issues. Unpredictable hours and unstable jobs spark protests and strikes, further delaying shipments. And those who are working are often exhausted, trying to clear massive backlogs. This human toll rarely makes the news, but it's central to the crisis. Without enough experienced hands at the docks, even the best recovery plans can fall apart. And growing tensions between workers and management could push things into an even worse spiral. Next, we look ahead to what happens if tariffs snap back again. It's a scenario no one wants, but many fear. August could be the tipping point. The moment this crisis turns catastrophic. If tariffs suddenly shoot back up to 145%, a second freeze is almost certain. Imagine dozens of ships arriving, only to be hit with crushing fees that make unloading impossible. Containers will pile up, abandoned. Trucks will have nothing to haul, warehouses will overflow. The entire supply chain will grind to a halt again, this time even worse than before. And for consumers, forget holiday shopping. Popular items could disappear from store shelves entirely. This nightmare isn't just speculation, it's a real risk, unless something changes soon. Time is running out. The next few months will decide whether America's ports bounce back or break down completely. Now let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. How this crisis is eroding trust in global trade. International trade runs on trust. Trust in schedules, in tariffs, and in agreements between nations. But when policies flip without warning, that trust falls apart. Businesses can't plan, factories can't schedule production, ports can't operate efficiently. Global trade starts to look like a shaky bridge, ready to collapse under the weight of uncertainty. The electric vehicle revolution, infrastructure projects, even your next online order, they all rely on a stable, predictable supply chain. And right now, that foundation is cracking. When trust breaks down, companies delay investments, projects get shelved, innovation slows to a crawl. This crisis isn't just a short-term disruption, it's a warning signal for the future of global trade. So the real question is, can we fix it before the damage becomes permanent? Let's wrap up with a call to action. What needs to happen next? This isn't about politics, it's about competence. If we want electric vehicles built on time, ports operating smoothly, and prices staying stable, we need long-term trade policies, not unpredictable tariffs that change every few months, not 90-day quick fixes that barely patch the cracks. We need clear, consistent rules that businesses and workers can count on. Because the next supply chain crisis isn't coming, it's already here. It's time to demand better. For our economy, for innovation, for every family waiting on a package or a new car, the future depends on it.